Now on Chronicle.
If we cannot educate our young people, then we are going to be left behind.
Obstacles to success in our schools.
At the start of the school year, we had 1,600 vacant teaching positions in South Carolina.
How does South Carolina compare to other states?
Good job. I just think we have an amazing window of opportunity right now.
And how are schools working to shape the whole student?
We have a responsibility as educators for doing what's best for students.
All right, flip over the back.
There's not a lot of people that want to pour into the next generation.
From pre-K
when they come to me, they're literally a blank canvas.
to graduation day.
I'm definitely ready to graduate. It's been a long time coming, it feels like.
Now on Chronicle, State of Education.
Good evening, I'm Jane Robelow. It's no secret that South Carolina public schools have faced critical challenges. In this next hour, we'll examine the innovations being created to ensure the success of our students. And the state of education all starts with a strong and committed teacher.
If you want to change the world, be a teacher.
Any successful person will tell you that at least one of their most influential mentors was a teacher. They're the foundation of a strong education. And public education is the backbone of our economy. But as our Sydney Shadracks tells us, many teachers are now leaving the classrooms. In fact, this last school year showed the most teacher vacancies to date.
Positive angle, that would be what? Pi over 6.
For more than 20 years.
Our school, for the most part, has stayed the same size, the student body.
Lee Addis has taught math at Greenwood High School.
When I came here, there were 21 teachers in the math department. We now have 10.
And the teachers who do remain have had to adjust.
You teach 3 blocks and then you have a planning block. Most of us in math teach 4 straight blocks with no planning.
And now...
All right, so again, y'all, we're just gonna do this basic part today.
Addis is even going a step further.
I happen to teach an extra block because I teach the same class. I just have 2 sections of it at the same time.
Now, what you do as a teacher really is remarkable. You teach 2 classes at once. So tell me what's going on in this classroom right now.
This is the room where they're actually watching the instruction up there. When they have something to practice or when I'm not actually teaching, then I walk back and forth between the 2. And they swap off every other day. If we didn't do this, we couldn't offer these classes. Or we would have classes of 50 kids in them.
Would it be helpful if there were more teachers?
Of course.
Data from the South Carolina Center for Educator Recruitment, Retention, and Advancement, or SARA, shows the number of teacher vacancies at schools across the state at the beginning of each school year. The 2023-24 school year showing the most vacancies yet, more than 1,600. Jennifer McMakin taught for 2 years before leaving the profession in the summer of 2019.
It was really exciting for me to pursue the teaching career in general.
She says she has always loved children, had a great education and student teaching experience, but then things changed.
There's so many responsibilities that open up the moment you sign a contract with the school, and it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff.
And something no amount of classes or education can prepare you for.
There's no way of knowing how much you're going to have to balance once you actually get your own classroom.
What do you wish people knew about teaching?
How hard it is.
Many people now assessing the financial return.
With a math or science degree, there are a lot of higher paying jobs that you can have that don't have the headache of what you can have with school.
On an emotional investment.
More and more, our teachers have been asked to become surrogate families in many cases to these children, and our teachers can't sustain that burden.
And for too many, the math just doesn't seem to add up, even with the state increasing teacher pay, with salaries up about 17%.
I often hear from teachers that it's not just pay. Respect is a very important thing, and respect can show up as a discipline in the classroom. I think a lot of times teachers feel like no one has their back.
It's a feeling McMakin remembers well.
If you're not being taught how to be a teacher and juggle the responsibilities of a teacher, you're gonna burn out because you're gonna drop too many balls, and at some point you're not juggling anymore. You're just tossing a ball.
McMakin still works with children as an early interventionist.
Good job. I get to look at what does the family want, what is best for the child, and we get to set goals based off of that, and I can't ask for anything better.
Oh my, there goes 3. And says she finally feels like she has found a balance and support.
So what would it take to get folks back in the classroom?
I personally feel like having that team behind you and the support and the trust.
We have to show our young people coming up through high school into college that teaching is a viable career where they can make a living.
But South Carolina Superintendent of Education Ellen Weaver says she is optimistic.
I'm really encouraged about where we are in South Carolina. We certainly have a lot of work to do, but I have great hope for our teaching profession.
In fact, it's optimism, Addis says, that carries her through.
I just don't dwell on what's wrong. I just say, well, this is what it is, and you got to figure out a way to get around it.
Optimism, and of course, the students.
The kids are still going to show up every day, and until something happens to really turn around the teacher shortage, you got to figure out a way to do what's best for the students.
Higher pay is a big incentive in recruiting and in keeping teachers in the classroom. And the General Assembly has answered that call. They've just raised teacher pay even higher than Governor Henry McMaster had requested, bringing starting salary up to $47,000 a year, with the goal of raising that to $50,000 by 2026. So much has changed in the last decade since our last Chronicle on the state of education, and it's fascinating to see how the Palmetto State now ranks nationwide and around the world. Our Stephanie Trotter tracks the latest curve on South Carolina's grades.
All right, if you're looking at number 3,
AP Lit
says Mama never dances and Dad only
is a page turner at Wren High.
Like trying to prevent the negativity.
And Ella Schufelt, the subject of success.
I wonder if her tear was for the lost buffalo or for the memory of Jack.
The valedictorian story is one to be heard. With a 5.5 GPA, National Merit Scholar recognition, and a perfect super score on the ACT.
I've definitely always loved school. My mom is a teacher, and so I would stay after school and read books in her classroom all the time.
In turn, teachers love her.
She is not content with just being average. She has that motivation to try to surpass not only her classmates, but what she can do on each given assessment.
Ella's next classes will come at Clemson.
I'm very excited to just see what I can do.
As she sets her sights on genetic cancer research.
What I have been offered here at Wren has definitely been more than enough to get me to the places where I need to go, and I'm incredibly grateful for all of the opportunities that I've been given during my time here.
And while she gives Wren an A+, what's the grade for South Carolina schools as a whole? The latest graduation rate for seniors getting out in 4 years is below the national average. SAT scores have fluctuated since the pandemic, recently tying the national average. And U.S. News and World Reports ranks the Palmetto State 41st in education. When we walked school halls just over 10 years ago, student scores were low enough, the state superintendent of education said things had to change.
Over the last 40 years, since 1970, after controlling for inflation, per pupil spending has doubled. But we haven't seen a lot of change in outcomes. In fact, for the first time in history, we're looking at an American generation less literate than our parents.
Because she used her brain, didn't she?
The current superintendent agrees.
But what I can tell you is that there is not a strong correlation between the money spent and student outcomes.
Ellen Weaver says South Carolina sits in the middle third of states with an average per pupil spending of just over $13,000. Yet the nation's report card shows only about 1/3 of the state's 4th graders are proficient in reading and math, and about 1/4 of 8th graders. All achievements are at or below the national average.
I really think that the conversation comes down to how are we leveraging the dollars that are within the system. And one of the things that we have really put a strong strategic focus on is early literacy.
Educators say reading is the foundation for all other subjects. You can't master math and science if you can't read. After a generation of teaching kids to read using a memory-based system, Palmetto teachers are returning to phonics.
Good job.
So, and I think people across the state believe it's going to make a difference. The science of reading is very important, and as we've started digging into that, I know it's a lot about background knowledge. So your big test coming up Monday. Are you ready for it?
Jamie Gukra was named a top 5 teacher in the state and promoted to assistant principal at Woodruff Elementary.
And they're already working on 6th grade stuff or 7th grade stuff.
She finds the pressure to perform for both teachers and students has never been higher.
All right, so now I've got 7 nights.
And that most national reports don't compare apples to apples.
But instead we have each state, has their own assessment. And then I think sometimes South Carolina sets higher standards based on those numbers.
Keep in mind, local students don't just compete against classmates for jobs and college admissions. They're compared to other teens around the world. An international assessment shows U.S. 15-year-olds have improved over the last 10 years, but still lag behind many others. China, Japan, Ireland, and Canada are just a few of the countries consistently outscoring American students.
So as we see British influence start to fade away.
Back at Wren High, Ella's teacher has tracked progress for state public education.
Really starting to get a chance to add to their income.
Noting its importance.
Public education is how we get jobs and get industry in this state, and our students need to be prepared to fill those occupations. Do not second guess yourself.
Using what they've learned.
Our students are going to change the world.
At home.
But are they going to change it for the better or for the worse? I think that's what it really comes down to. Thank you for your participation.
And afar.
How are we best equipping them to take the next best step? Bye, y'all. Have a good day. Happy Friday. Thank you, ma'am.
Part of equipping our students may lie in getting them into the classroom sooner. Right now, state-funded pre-kindergarten for 4-year-olds only serves children who are considered most at risk, mainly where family income is 100% below the poverty level, or the child has a documented developmental delay. Our Nigel Robertson shows us the benefits of an early start.
Raina, don't touch, darling. Come here.
In a K-4 classroom,
they're full of energy.
Everything is new.
It's never a dull moment.
This is Miss Patel's K-4 classroom.
Can this go here? When they come to me, they're literally a blank canvas.
This is Miss Carter's, right next door. These 4-year-olds don't know it yet, but by just being here in this room, already in school, they are already socially and academically ahead.
K-4 is important. I really, after teaching 18 years, I really thought it would become universal, just like K-5. And that it would be open to anyone and everybody.
But in South Carolina, it's not. In fact, countless parents apply each year to get into K-4 programs across the state. The majority turned away because there are only so many spots available.
I think K-4 should be for everyone. In fact, I think K-4 should be required. The curriculum is getting rigorous each year. The standards are changing each year. Curriculum is changing, and the expectations are getting harder and harder.
In South Carolina, many young children face challenges that can be barriers to academic and career success. According to First Steps, 45% of children ages 0 to 5 live in poverty or low-income households. 55% of children ages 3 to 4 are not enrolled in preschool. 50% of children ages 0 to 5 are read to less than 4 days per week. 64% of kindergartners are not ready to start school.
Let's see, what about this one?
That means those who start behind often stay behind, leading to an achievement gap that could follow a child all the way into adulthood.
Numbers don't lie. I feel like yes, because we give the first building block, cognitive, social, emotional. Everything is built upon what I lay the first brick.
But to do all of this, it is going to take funding. First, every K-4 classroom not only has a teacher, but also an assistant in the room. So you have to find the funds to pay for that teacher, pay for that assistant, and find the teachers themselves. That is the challenge. Back in 2021, the South Carolina legislature allocated $37 million to expand K-4 in the state. Governor Henry McMaster hoping the infusion of cash would bring increased access to free 4-year-old kindergarten programs for children who may not have previously qualified for the program.
We know we have some weaknesses, and that's why we've expanded 4K kindergarten.
But in 2024, for many parents, the wait continues while the need grows.
Good. You made a pattern.
Back in the classroom, teachers like Miss Patel and Miss Carter are doing their part to get their kids ready for K-5.
Education Superintendent Ellen Weaver tells us the department is putting a strategic focus on early literacy statewide, adding that several districts in the state do use local funding to serve all children who request pre-K services. However, state regulations prohibit charging any fees to students who are at risk.
She's super sweet, yeah.
Still ahead, the ways schools are keeping students on track with their mental health.
We've definitely seen an increase in anxiety. That's at all levels.
And the efforts to support faculty and staff.
Yes, it's therapeutic for me as well.
That's next on Chronicle.
Right now, we really just don't have enough counselors in schools to be able to meet those needs.
Data shows students need emotional support. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, reports that 17% of young people ages 6 to 17 years old experience a mental health disorder. That creates the need for hundreds more counselors in South Carolina schools. And Gabrielle Komorowski found that school districts are finding new ways to fill those jobs, as well as creative ways to show students support.
Joy on 4 legs, and she touches hearts. Ellie Mae is a therapy dog who visits the students at Powdersville Elementary in Anderson School District 1.
I get to read her.
She rub her belly.
She quickly gets comfortable.
She's super sweet, yeah.
And works her magic.
How does Ellie Mae make you feel?
Calm and happy. Like if we're having a hard day, then we can just come here and like talk to her and we'll have like a good day for the rest of the day.
Yes, it's therapeutic for me as well.
School counselor Tammy Kirby says dogs make a difference.
We're competing so much with technology and all the outside influences. I think we have to be creative to keep their attention, to keep them engaged as learners, and also to help them emotionally and socially as well.
Mental health counselors, which the need for that really became apparent after the pandemic when a lot of things just came apart.
1 in 5 young people report that the pandemic had a significant negative impact on their mental health.
School counseling over the past few years, I'll say over the past decade, has really changed. There's more wraparound services from social emotional development to academic development to those mental health services that they need in a classroom to now the counseling background.
Elizabeth House is the director of school counseling for Greenville County Schools and says right now in South Carolina, one school counselor can have up to 800 elementary school students on their caseload.
It's one of the largest in the nation. You will see burnout.
Making sure that we are leveraging our counselors to their highest and best use is absolutely critical.
You read all those books?
Yeah.
Superintendent of Education Ellen Weaver says she is reviewing existing technology and tools to help lighten the load on counselors.
Understanding who your student is
And work to get more school counselors into schools is happening in this classroom of adults.
We'll pick it back up.
Have they done counseling?
Your text? Anybody have your text?
No.
After a full day of teaching, they are here to learn.
Because typically when you're a teacher and you leave teaching to go into counseling, you have to either take a leave of absence or you have to go without pay for a while.
Erica Brewster teaches business education at Riverside High School in Greenville County.
Post-COVID, I noticed a lot of my students wanting to spend more time just talking, and so I ended up putting a little small desk beside my desk, and they just kind of have a safe space that they can come to just to kind of relieve any stress, any fears, any anxiety.
You're like interacting with like the students.
Now she is working toward becoming a school counselor. A partnership between Greenville County Schools and Clemson University uses federal grant money, allowing Greenville County school employees to keep working full-time while receiving their master's degree tuition-free, helping to eliminate the barriers of time and costs that might prevent people from becoming a school counselor.
What's really unique about this, though, is that these counselors know their community. They know the students, they know the school district. They are able to better meet the needs because they already have an understanding of what those needs are and how best to address them.
I'm a black male in elementary education. You know, I've been called the unicorn of education at times. So
Daniel Hoylett teaches 5th grade at Brushy Creek Elementary School in Greenville County. He knows as a counselor, he will make an impact.
Show them, you know, it's okay to have feelings, and processing it with someone who's of the same gender makes a difference. How they're coping with it. Just like
in all, the federal grant will help put 48 more school counselors into Greenville County schools, providing more support for students.
I just want to pet her for the rest of my life.
As counselors around South Carolina explore new ways to connect
You speak?
Good
and help.
Right now, Greenville County is the only school district where each school has an assigned mental health counselor. That alone adds behavioral support to specifically address students' mental health needs. And school officials are hoping to receive more grant dollars in the future to support more educators who want to become school counselors.
Next on Chronicle.
You've seen in other parts of the country when something's happened, nobody knows what to do. Well, that's not how we're going to do it.
Law enforcement across South Carolina, working together to best keep students safe at school.
Something parents never want to think about, but know they need to be aware of, is the potential for violence in schools.
All students are safe and followed our procedures.
On October 5th, 2022, there was an active shooter hoax in South Carolina that hit about 20 schools from coast to mountain. And this wasn't your run-of-the-mill, somebody goes on social media and posts that they're going to, blow up a school, which is bad. This active shooter hoax was far more coordinated. It was very targeted.
Thankfully, that incident was indeed a hoax. But they aren't always false alarms, and the threat of school violence is top of mind for educators. Aaron Baker takes a closer look at how proactive South Carolina has become in training and preparing for real threats.
Now, one of the instructors is going to come by and search you again.
We're fairly cutting edge in South Carolina. A lot of people don't know it.
The Palmetto State leading the way by preparing for something that everyone hopes will never happen.
Yes. Do you feel safe?
Shots fired right here.
According to nonprofit organization Everytown for Gun Safety, 33 incidents of gunfire have occurred on South Carolina school grounds from 2013 to July 2024, causing 8 deaths and 18 injuries. A problem in South Carolina and across the country.
Somebody says Columbine or Parkland or Uvalde, we immediately know what that one word means. I don't want any community in South Carolina to have that word association. But the only way we do that is if we're proactive.
The old Gilbert Elementary School in Lexington County has been transformed into the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division's Center for School Safety and Targeted Violence, an investment in proactive safety planning that's supported by the governor, the General Assembly, and teachers' unions.
I'm grateful that our state leadership has invested in an infrastructure that will allow our law enforcement professionals to share best practices with each other.
along with the legislature and the governor's office.
You've seen in other parts of the country when something's happened, nobody knows what to do. Well, that's not how we're going to do it.
SLED trains with law enforcement agencies from across the state.
Day to day, I could have someone from Greenville standing next to someone from Lexington County, standing next to an Aiken County paramedic.
This allows the chaos to be a little more controlled and everybody to understand what each other's going to do.
That collaboration between every level of leadership matters more than ever when seconds matter.
A lot of these tragedies, a lot of these active shooter events on school campuses, they end up becoming multi-agency, multi-county responses. And so it's really important that local law enforcement has cross-trained so that in the event of an actual emergency, they're better equipped to jointly respond.
We'll do it at T, 3-man moving forward.
Captain Wayne Freeman, who manages the program, says the dedicated space allows SLED to partner with law enforcement across the state and train for multiple threat scenarios without distractions.
We need to be able to train from outside to inside, movement efficiently inside, and to be able to transition from a single officer, such as a school resource officer alone, to team tactics where we come together as one and move through the structure. There you go, let's go.
Including classrooms, stairwells, and how to partner with other first responder agencies like EMS on site.
Working together with SLED gives our providers a much better understanding of the tactical side of what's happening inside. It helps us to reach patients sooner. If we know what's going on, we can be more helpful.
Freeman says SLED's training program has served as a blueprint for other states.
We're in 12th year now, producing a couple of 100,000 students at no cost to all participants. We've traveled to 19 states. We have hosted personnel from Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina, Utah, Wisconsin, but we've also been asked to go and train in Minnesota, Illinois, Utah, Idaho.
A way to exchange knowledge and techniques.
We owe it to our children to be better and perfect our craft. The only way to do that is through outside collaboration and being open and willing to take on new ideas and change what you're doing to improve.
And fight a threat that's always present.
We think that we are somehow uniquely situated in South Carolina that it couldn't happen here, then we are sadly fooling ourselves and we're setting ourselves up for heartbreak. So continuing this dialogue in a moment where we're not responding to tragedy, I think is what equips us to never be in that position in the first place.
At the ceremonial signing to establish the Center for School Safety, Governor Henry McMaster renewed his pledge to ensure that the state has funding for a certified school resource officer in every school in the state.
Ahead on Chronicle.
We're working closely with school districts to get students that have been expelled or who have dropped out.
How South Carolina's first virtual alternative school is offering a different path to graduation for some students.
The COVID-19 pandemic had a huge effect on public education. Schools shut down, and there was a shift to virtual learning. But that did open avenues for some students who were at risk. Many discovered that they're better suited for online learning. Rashad Williams logs us into Heron Virtual Academy in the upstate. It's South Carolina's first and only virtual alternative school.
When it comes to education the last few years,
I think we are still seeing a lot of learning gaps and learning loss from COVID.
David Crook, CEO of nonprofit SC Learns, says he's been actively working to close those gaps.
The sort of unseen issue is not academic, it's around social emotional issues.
11 years ago, Crook spearheaded SC Learns, essentially the parent company of Cyber Academy of South Carolina.
We were getting a lot of at-risk students at Cyber Academy of South Carolina over the last decade.
Crook recognized an alarming need and launched a safe space for those at-risk students in 2023, Heron Virtual Academy, crafted for those up to 21 years old in the 9th through 12th grade.
They've dropped out, they've expelled, high truancy, social emotional issues, bullying at school, just a wide variety of things that bring them to us.
Heron is now also under the umbrella of SC Learns.
We offer a full high school diploma
as South Carolina's first and only state-approved virtual alternative tuition-free education campus.
Our first year, we wanted 600 kids. That's kind of what we budgeted for and hired for, and we were up to 750, and we had to close enrollment and go on a wait list.
Talena Stoffel among the inaugural 750 students.
I like going to school now.
And that's what I just wanted to feel.
The 16-year-old soon-to-be 10th grader says she was bullied on a regular basis.
I don't know what you had to deal with in school, but hopefully it wasn't what I've had to deal with.
After having to move to nearly half a dozen different in-person schools due to bullying.
As a kid, anyone, any person, you know, those things start to take a toll on you and you get tired, you get scared.
Talina's mom, Stephanie, says she reached a breaking point and stood up for herself, being expelled as a result.
I've had to just alter my whole life.
Talina says that life-altering moment led her to Mallory White.
I got to meet with her at the start of the school year, get to really dig in deep about her background.
All students at Heron get a social worker like Mallory.
It feels like so many of them come to us because they didn't have another option, or they were told no, or they didn't qualify for other schools. We get to tell them yes.
Students also get a personalized experience with counselors, mentors, and advisors.
It doesn't matter what happened in the past. Like, you may have made a mistake. You're still worthy. You're valuable. Let us prove to you how valuable you are.
The virtual option to attend class live or watch recorded versions has really given Talina a renewed sense of accomplishing her goals.
I just planted them yesterday.
With her eyes set on Clemson and taking on the world of agriculture,
I planted red wheat. It's okay to make a mistake, but you can't just give up.
A second chance at education.
Graduation is the ultimate goal for these students.
And a second chance at life.
They're not just a student number. It's a person with a story and a background that really needed us.
David Crook says there's already such a high rise in demand. He's expecting up to 15% growth after this upcoming school year.
Next on Chronicle.
I am flying a Cessna Skyhawk on a simulator.
How high schoolers are preparing for the careers of the future to keep pace with growing demand.
Education goes beyond the 3 R's. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. A full high school education now includes the chance to study the trades, to actually train in the technical fields. Students and businesses love it. And as Carol Clark found, this isn't your parents' shop class.
Flying high above Pickens County.
Very high up.
At least it looks and feels that way to Tristan Villano. The 10th grader is one of a few dozen students in aerospace engineering here.
I have wanted to be a pilot since I was a kid. The air just fascinates me, and this is the fast track to getting to be there.
There is a huge need, approximately 800,000 short in the next 10 years, and they're looking at many avenues to help alleviate that.
Including teaching high schoolers about flight at the Pickens County Career and Technology Center. It's one of over 40 technical high schools in South Carolina. The demand for workers is high for all the trades. In welding, for example, it's believed we'll need about 42,600 workers in the U.S. every year to fill vacancies. And a good chunk of those vacancies are left by people who've retired.
The baby boomers are retiring out, and they're taking their trade skills experience with them, and the younger generation who spent all that time on getting their 4-year degrees and stuff are not suited or prepared to go into these trade skills, which has left a huge gap there.
Ken Hitchcock says there are 700,000 job openings in the skilled trades in the U.S. Back in 2020, Governor Henry McMaster said there were 70,000 of these jobs available in South Carolina alone. There's reason to believe there are even more now. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce lists the state as one of the most severe overall for a worker shortage. Are you hurting anywhere? Healthcare is high demand. Maddie Wise has been training in patient care for 3 years, and that gave her a clear path.
I definitely feel like it will save a lot of time. I'm going to go to Greenville Tech, too, and then I'm going to get my RN license, and it will take 2 to 3 years, and then after that I'm going to go work as a RN.
But for students who want to work right after school, jobs are there.
So when they're done here, they can actually go straight into the workforce.
And I think it helps them.
Really key element.
Ray Farley of Alliance Pickens would agree. He champions the scholar-technician ideal, students using their minds and their hands.
Having an asset like the Pickens County Career and Technology Center is absolutely linchpin to the recruitment effort when it comes to new industries and new investment coming into Pickens County.
He knows of businesses that located in the county because of the ready, well-trained workforce at the Career Center.
The most recent one was FN America, largest small arms supplier to the U.S. military.
Another is JR Automation, which moved to the county from Michigan.
The demand is there, and industries are very supportive. Some of them run apprentice programs where they'll pay for their college.
Trained machine technology students like Landon Moore, who already has a part-time machine tech job outside of school.
I love it. I mean, in a way, I feel like I was kind of born to do this. Yeah, it's nice.
Ken Hitchcock thinks it's more than nice.
Our graduation rate for students that have completed a pathway at the Pickens County Career and Technology Center is 98.5%.
A number of these in-demand students can take right into the workforce.
And the workforce is waiting. Nationwide, there's a shortage of 400,000 workers in the skilled trades. But local students are aware and they're eager to jump in. In fact, the welding instructor told Carol he has a waiting list of 200 students for his classes.
Still to come on Chronicle.
We're going to need more buses. That's just a fact, and we're going to need more drivers.
How the largest school district in the state is working to get students to and from school safely.
Getting students to and from school is another challenge facing many school districts. The school bus driver shortage is a growing issue. Aaron Baker gives us a closer look at what the largest school district in the state is doing, not only to hire bus drivers, but also to make the upgrades to keep students safe.
31,000 students and nearly 400 routes. Greenville County Schools is moving the equivalent of Simpsonville and Travelers Rest populations every single school day.
It takes all summer to plan for the new school year, and we've actually started planning for the new school year in January.
That work is being done despite significant bus driver shortages. 90 drivers short just a few years ago.
Because that's where we were during COVID. We're 90 drivers short. Where can we condense some? And some we just could not condense.
That number has since improved, but in a growing county, it's an issue that stays at the top of transportation head Adam James's mind.
We're running at the bare minimum right now. If we keep growing, there's not going to be a lot more room for efficiency.
The mission is the same as it's always been. Get kids to and from school safely, but the ride itself has gotten a 21st century makeover.
All of the buses have Wi-Fi, giving students the ability to do homework assignments on the way to and from school. It's also the backbone for a big safety feature.
So you've got one right here. This is monitoring driver behavior. You've got one up here behind the mirror. That's monitoring the outside traffic. Then you've got two outside, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Every school bus in the county has a full camera system that's connected at all times to the transportation department, and a full suite of new safety features on the buses themselves.
You can see one of the cameras right there that captures this side. It's got one here, it's got one on the back, and then one on the other side. It's going to illuminate, and then it's got one in the windshield. It's going to illuminate 360 degrees around the bus. On the newer bus spec going forward from 2023 on is this light right here. This light actually illuminates the wheel well area in the back.
More improvements are on the way as well.
Everything coming new has the double stop arm, the 360-degree camera, the backup camera.
The upgrades come as more parents have opted to utilize the car line over the last few years. Joey Moy's elementary-age son would have to spend about an hour and a half each morning riding the bus to Ellen Woodside, so he opts for some family time for all three of his sons in the car line instead.
It gives them a chance to connect a little bit more, and I think it also gives them a chance to, bond a little bit.
Whether it's by car or by bus, Greenville County is booming, and for transportation leaders, planning ahead is the name of the game.
We're going to need more buses. That's just a fact, and we're going to need more drivers.
Districts are looking at pay increases. In Greenville County, the hourly rate for bus drivers and bus aides just went up. And employees who work 30 hours or more per week qualify for health and dental benefits, sick leave, and free life insurance. We have details on how you can apply on WYFF4.com.
Training the next generation of teachers.
For me personally, I just am really passionate about giving back to a public school, and because it gave so much to me.
The programs in place across South Carolina, aiming to fill teacher vacancies. Ahead on Chronicle.
I feel like for me, that teacher was my 4th grade math teacher.
There's so much that relationship means to kids that they may not ever share, they may not realize until they're older.
But it's about those relationships, and that's a big deal to know that kids look back and they remember who their 7th grade math teacher was.
Teachers understand the lifelong impact they can have on their students. Our Gabrielle Komorowski shows us how the goal now is to inspire the teachers of the next generation. And the key, she says, just may be to get them interested while they're still students.
What's the dynamic of this song?
It's music class at Wren Middle School in Anderson School District 1.
Ready?
And the person in front of the class teaching the students is also a student. Caleb Richardson is a senior at Wren High School. 5 days a week, he spends an hour at the middle school as a teacher cadet. What made you want to be a teacher cadet?
Yeah, so I was inspired by my parents, family of educators that I come from, and I just wanted to know more about the profession.
Up in this picture, like we said, is
Clockwise is always to the right. In between songs, you're
Caleb is one of 12 Wren High School students in the teacher cadet program.
It's also called a turn, okay?
They work with students and lead lessons.
I think there's an aspect of teaching that has to be learned hands-on.
It says that we want to nurture those students who have any little interest in possibly becoming an education major one day. Because we know if we don't capture them, then some other career field, some other job path is going to capture them.
The Teacher Cadet program is in 179 high schools around South Carolina, with more than 2,800 juniors and seniors participating.
As we all know, in South Carolina, we have had a teacher shortage for quite some time. But more importantly than just filling classrooms with teachers, we want to have those teachers who are passionate.
Students who are serious about becoming a teacher can apply to become a teaching fellow and use state-issued funds to complete their teaching degree. About 230 students are accepted into the program statewide each year, and 30 of them will come here to Anderson University.
We want to recruit those teachers, those great future teachers, but we also want to retain them in the state of South Carolina.
A teaching fellow can receive up to $6,000 a year. In exchange, after graduation, they will work in a South Carolina public school. How many of you just raise your hand, have always known that you wanted to be a teacher? No? Mary Wood says being a teacher cadet in high school changed her mind.
So I was in a 3rd grade classroom and I absolutely loved it. I just fell in love with teaching and all of it, and so that was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Elementary or secondary teacher is not going to tell you.
These teaching fellows say working with children is a calling.
They need those role models and they need that encouragement and that love.
Kids deserve an excited teacher that's going to come into the classroom, that's going to teach, that's their passion.
I want to make sure you really want to do it.
Yeah.
All of the teaching fellows you see here were teacher cadets in high school.
It's all about building that pipeline.
Superintendent of Education Ellen Weaver says the first 5 years of a teacher's career are critical, and supporting new teachers will keep them in the profession.
They always talk about another teacher who mentored them or a principal who coached them. I think really retention comes down to the culture within the school.
Good morning.
And these schools know that showing students how they can make a difference at a young age is a successful tune for the future of South Carolina.
It all depends on the teacher. The teacher is the key, and we have to do all we can in South Carolina to see that we get and keep the very best teachers.
A chance to make an impact that can last a lifetime.
And so we leave you with that challenge. Jump in. Reach out to a local school to become a mentor or a tutor. Get involved with your local school board, because we've now seen just how much a strong South Carolina really depends on a great state of education. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jane Robelo. Good night.